Hi, my name is Albert Leonardes and my TP number is TP073935. Now I will talk about corruption. I have three definitions of corruption. The first one is from the World Bank. What does it define? It defines as the abuse of public office for private gain. It covers a wide range of behavior from bribery to theft of public funds. The next one is from G.S. Nye. It defines as a behavior which deviates from the formal duties of a public law because of the private regarding like the personal, close family or private clique, pecuniary or status gains, or violates rules against the exercise of certain types of private regarding influence. The last one is from the Transparency International. They define corruption as the involvement of behavior on the part of an official in the public sector, whether politicians, civil servants, in which they improperly and unlawfully enrich themselves or those close to them by the misuse of the public power entrusted of them. Next, I want to talk about the forms of corruption. The first one is the bribery. What is a bribery? It's an attempt to make someone to do something for you by giving the person money, presents, or something else that they want. The next one is the extortion. What is extortion? It's the act of getting something, especially money, by force of or threats. The third one is fraud. What is fraud? Fraud is the crime of getting money by deceiving people. The fourth one is embezzlement. What is embezzlement? Embezzlement is a misallocation subsidy that are entrusted to someone. The fifth one is nepotism. What is nepotism? It's a use of power or high position to give an unfair advantage for your own family, mostly regarding giving a job. The sixth one is cronyism. What is cronyism? It's the people with power or authority are using their importance to select their friends, associates, regardless of their qualifications. And the last one is influence peddling. It's the illegal activity of a politician doing something for somebody in return of payment. Now I want to talk about the effect of corruption. The first one is erosion of trust. If the corruption happens in the government area, the public will assume that people with power are exploit their position, which end up public will lose their trust with the institutions. The second one is widening inequality. With the corruption case happen either in the government or the businesses, therefore it will affect the business around that are related with the corruption case happened. Hence, the corrupt will get rich and the businesses will get poor. Same as the rich got richer and the poor get poorer. The last one is security risk. Because corruption cases are giving an assumption that law is easily to break, therefore it will give more possibility to other crime occur in the future which threatens the public safety. Here are some examples of the largest corruption cases that have ever happened. The first one is the Siemens corruption made in Germany, which around 1.4 billion US dollar. The next one is draining Nigeria of its assets. It's around 3 to 5 billion US dollar. The third one is Fujimori's Peru death squad's embezzlement and good public relations. It's around 600 million US dollar. And the fourth one is shutting down competition in Tunisia. It's around 13 billion US dollar. And the last one is the Russian laundromat with a little help from Moldova. It's around 20 to 80 billion US dollar. I'm going to talk about the abstract of the topic we choose, which is the Samsung bribery scandal. In 2016, Samsung, a major South Korean company, was embroiled in a bribery scandal. Lee Jae-yong, the company's leader, was accused of paying millions of dollars in bribes to President Park Geun-hye. Prosecutors claim Samsung wanted a government approval for a partial merger that strengthened Lee's control over the company. The scandal exposed the close ties between the Korean businesses and politics and damaged Samsung's reputation. However, the case went through several twists. Lee finally was initially convicted but later acquitted in 2024.
The scandal began in 2016 when allegations of wrongdoing surfaced involving then President Park and his close confidant, Choi Soon-sil. Choi was accused of using her relationship with Park to pressure companies into donating large sums of money to foundations she controlled. Lee Jae-yong, the vice chairman of Samsung Electronics and heir to the Samsung empire, was implicated in the scandal. He was accused of bribing Choi to gain political support for a merger of two Samsung affiliates, Samsung C&T and Kiars Industries. This merger was critical for consolidating Lee's control over Samsung Group.
Two of the most critical links in the E family ownership web were Samsung Construction and Trading, or CNT, and Choi Industries, each of which, as two of the oldest Samsung affiliates, acted primarily as de facto holding companies of sorts. But E family control of CNT, and therefore electronics, engineering, chemicals, and the other affiliates partially owned by CNT, was fading as outside, increasingly hostile investors continued to buy in. If Lee Kung-hee never awoke from his coma, the 50% inheritance tax would be a death blow, and the house of cards would crumble. Therefore, a plan. They'd merge CNT and Choi.
Lee Jae-yong was arrested and charged with bribery, embezzlement, and perjury. Prosecutors alleged that Samsung provided 43 billion won, approximately $36 million, to Choi's foundation in return for political favor.
Court issued an arrest warrant for E at around 5:35 a.m. Friday.
Choi was a longtime friend and confidant of President Park. Despite having no official government position, she wields significant influence over Park. Choi was accused of using her influence to extort money from businesses including Samsung, for charitable foundations, partially for personal gain. In August 2017, Lee Jae-yong was found guilty of bribery, embezzlement, and perjury. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. This verdict sent shockwaves across Samsung and the broader business community as it highlighted the deep-rooted connections between business and politics in
Korea's most powerful men. On Friday, Seoul's Central District Court found Lee Jae-yong guilty of corruption. The heir of the technology giant Samsung has been charged for bribery, embezzlement, and hiding assets overseas. The case led to the impeachment of South Korea's former president Park Geun-hye. He is set to serve 5 years behind bars.
In February 2018, an appeal court reduced Lee's sentence to 2.5 years and suspended it for 4 years, leading to his release from jail. However, the South Korean Supreme Court later ordered a retrial, stating that the original court had interpreted the definition of bribes too narrowly.
The Supreme Court has found Samsung Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong guilty of 2 counts of bribery for the 3 horses and $1.3 million he gave to former President Park Geun-hye's confidant Choi Soon-sil. He will sit for a retrial at the appeals court. The Supreme Court also asked the appeals court to review Park's prison sentence again because she was given a combined sentence for bribery and corruption, while the law requires separate sentences for public officials convicted of bribe taking. That means Park will likely get another prison sentence at the appeals court.
In January 2021, the Seoul High Court convicted Lee Jae-yong again and sentenced him to 2.5 years in prison. This reopened the charges of bribery and underscored ongoing issues of corporate governance and accountability in South Korea.
A South Korean court sentenced the de facto head of Samsung Electronics to 2.5 years in jail on Monday. J.Y. Lee was found guilty of bribery, embezzlement and concealment of criminal proceeds worth about $7.8 million. This won't be his first stretch of time in jail. Lee was first convicted of bribing an associate of former President Park Geun-hye in 2017.
Hello, my name is Valentina Lee, and I'm currently studying computer science, focusing on data analytics in Asia Pacific University in Malaysia. In Samsung bribery case from South Korea, there is two key main players here, which is the first is named Lee Jae-yong and the second is the government of Korea itself. So Lee Jae-yong was charged with giving Choi Sun-sil, which is a trusted friend from President Park, which is also the part of government in Korea, around 43.3 billion won, which is also the same with 38 billion US dollar, to get the government backing for the Samsung itself. He got this money from his company, and this made a lot of people around Korea or even around the world a lot of pros and cons and also debates. Besides that, Lee also got trouble because he is lying under the oath where regarding to the court for this scandal. Lee also got a lot of money from these criminals that he hid in another country outside of Korea that make him also accused of it. There is 5 evidence provided or presented for this bribery case. So the first one is the financial report, which it shows Lee Jae-yong gives that amount of money and takes amount of money from Samsung company itself to Choi Sun-sil. The second one is the testimony suggests that a lot of people say that Lee Jae-yong was hid himself below the oath to do this bribery case. The third one is the document that shows Lee Jae-yong have promised to Choi Sun-sil about the amount of money that he wants to give her to get a backup for the Samsung company itself. The fourth one is the evidence that Lee Jae-yong was planned to take over Samsung company, which is push himself more and more to do this bribery case. The fifth one is about the statement from 4 other Samsung executives, which is also in charge now and also involved in this bribery case.
12 days after J.Y. Lee, South Korea's most powerful business figure, was taken into detention, he faces the prospect of many months in a cell, awaiting trial for bribery, embezzlement and perjury. On the last day of their sprawling investigation into South Korea's presidential scandal, special prosecutors named Lee among 17 people to be newly indicted.
오늘 이재용 삼성전자 부회장
The prosecutor's spokesman said Lee, along with 4 other senior executives, would be indicted on charges including bribery, aggravated economic crime, embezzlement, hiding money in properties abroad, and concealment of criminal proceeds. Lee and his fellow executives are accused of approving payments of $36 million to foundations and companies linked to Choi Sun-sil to win government backing for a crucial merger. Choi, a longtime friend of the president, is currently on trial for bribery, coercion and abuse of power. Samsung Electronics says it made the payments but calls accusations of bribery, quote, groundless. And it's announced the disbanding of its Future Strategy Office, which, combined with complex cross-shareholdings, has allowed the founding family to control the giant conglomerate, or chaebol. It says Samsung affiliates will now run autonomously. Until now, their power has been strictly limited.
Those kind of limitations are not imposed by the legal or corporate law kind of thing. It is imposed by the kind of unofficial cultural thing called the jebor.
This all matters so much here because Samsung matters so much to the national economy. Its electronics division accounts for about 20% of South Korea's exports. In the past, J.Y. Lee's father was granted a presidential pardon after being convicted of a financial crime in the national interest. Even though impeached, the current president, Park Geun-hye, continues to enjoy immunity from prosecution. Special prosecutors instead booked her as a suspect, detailing her conversations with J.Y. Lee. If her impeachment is confirmed by the Constitutional Court, due to rule within the next 2 weeks, she too could be charged. Harry Fawcett, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
In February 2017, Lee was arrested together with Park Geun-hye and also his friend Choi Sun-sil regarding to bribery and embezzlement. So Lee was accused of giving that amount of money to government to get backup for Samsung itself, which is important for Lee's future plans in Samsung Group. Because of this, Lee had to go to trial for bribery, embezzlement, lying under oath, and other charges related to the scandal. He got in trouble, and at first he had to go to jail for 5 years, and after appeal, he finally got reduced his punishment until 2.5 years only.
In 2016, in the heart of South Korea's bustling capital, a scandal erupted that shook the foundations of both political and businesses. The Samsung bribery scandal involving former President Park Geun-hye exposed a web of corruptions and deceit that reverberated throughout the nation. The scandal that involved the former South Korean president and Samsung's de facto leader Lee Jae-young served as a pivotal aspect in understanding the dynamics of corruption, corporate governance, and the interplay between businesses and politics. Samsung's de facto leader Lee Jae-young was implicated in a bribery scandal involving millions of dollars funneled to entities linked to then President Park Geun-hye. This led to the charges of bribery, embezzlement, and perjury, resulting in Lee's imprisonment and President Park's impeachment. The scandal exposes significant issues in both corporate governance and political corruption in South Korea. And now, I would like to tell you about the lesson that can be learned throughout this case. The first lesson is the importance of robust corporate governance frameworks within private corporations. Samsung's hierarchical and family-owned structure allow unethical behavior to flourish without sufficient oversight. This incident underscores the need for companies to implement strong governance practices, including check and balance, ethical guidelines, and accountability mechanisms to prevent the abuse of power and ensure that business operations align with legal and ethical standards. While the scandal underscores the importance of corporate governance, the scandal also teaches the critical need for transparent governance. The scandal highlights how opaque decision-making processes can lead to significant ethical breaches. The dealings between Samsung executive and political figures highlight the vulnerability of governmental processes to manipulate private companies. Companies must prioritize transparency in their operations and ensure leaders are accountable for their actions. This can be achieved through regular audit, clear reporting lines, and whistleblower protections. About legal and regulatory implications, the scandal revealed the need for stronger legal and regulatory frameworks. The legal proceedings against Lee Jae-young and Park Geun-hye demonstrated the critical role of an independent judiciary in upholding the rule of law. South Korea's inconsistent enforcement of anti-corruption law, especially against powerful conglomerates, was a major issue. Rigorous and fair applications of laws is essential to prevent such incidents. This means that the operation of jurisdiction should be free from any political and corporate influence to ensure that the laws are applied equally to all citizens regardless of their status or power. The political aspect of this scandal was significant too. The scandal exposed deep-rooted connections between big businesses and politics in South Korea, often referred to as the chaebol culture. To prevent this, clear boundaries must be established between corporate interests and political decision-making. Some critical steps will be strengthening the anti-corruption agencies and ensuring political decisions are transparent and independent of corporate influence. Ethical leadership also played a vital role in preventing such scandal. While leaders set the tone for organizational culture, if top executives engage in unethical behavior, it trickles down throughout the whole organization. Leaders must prioritize ethical considerations and corporate social responsibility over personal gain. Companies need leaders who exemplify integrity and ethical behavior, promoting a culture where such practices are valued and rewarded. Lastly, not only the government but the public too have a role in preventing such incidents. In this case, the massive public outcry and widespread protests that follow the revelations of scandal illustrate the power of civic engagement in demanding accountability from leaders. A vigilant and informed public can hold both corporations and political entities accountable from maintaining pressure on the authorities to take action. This reinforces the notion that an informed and engaged citizenry is essential to have democracy. In the end, the Samsung bribery scandal involving President Park Geun-hye and Lee Jae-young is more than just a tale of corruption and legal consequences. Let this be a reminder for us about the myriad issues that can arise from a lack of oversight, accountability, and ethical standards. The lessons learned from these scandals are invaluable. By addressing the systemic issues highlighted by this case, not only South Korea, but other countries can work towards mitigating the risk of such scandal in the future. That is all from me. I hope this will be a lesson not just for me and you, but for everyone that is watching.
After discussing about the Samsung bribery case from South Korea, we come up with some points of suggestions here. So the first one is to learn about how leaders can change or affect the culture of companies by looking at how they work. The second one is about the way of stop corruption. So we suggest that companies around the world like Samsung Group can come up with rules or plans that can fight against the bribery or dishonest actions around their company. The third one is to judge how Samsung bribery scandal has impacted the company, especially to the worldwide. For example, to affect the global business standards and also the how the company will run after the bribery case.
Here are some suggestions from me. The first one is increasing the possibility to speak up if there are any suspected cases. With the encourage of people to speak up in all kinds of suspicious possibilities, it will reduce the possibility of corruption cases will be affecting more and more people and causing a massive financial loss. The second one is minimize the chance of viewing any kind of gratification. Somehow people tend to be happy if getting any kind of gratification. Later that they know, with the gratification that they get, they are prone to be one of the suspected people who are causing corruption cases to be happen. The last one is the raising awareness regarding to how corruption cases have negative impact to all kinds of society. Giving an awareness will help people to realize that corruption is impacting their future negatively. For example, like in education or in society, even though they just taking a small amount of things or the corruption. Because it's still the same as doing corruption.
I mean, it's not been a great 2016 on a product point of view from Samsung, and then on the conglomerate side, a political scandal now. Keep us up to date with what we're expecting today.
That's right. Yes, this has certainly taken a turn for the serious for Samsung. The focus of this investigation has been on President Park, and particularly her relationship with a friend, Miss Choi, in this influence peddling investigation. Prosecutors have been looking into donations that many of the large conglomerates in Korea have made to Ms. Choi and some of the foundations that she controls. And Samsung has denied any wrongdoing. They've said that it's common for the government to come to the big companies and ask for contributions when there's a charity drive or some kind of sports event. But as the specifics of these contributions have been made public, prosecutors have narrowed their focus in on Samsung. In particular, Samsung was involved in giving a billion won horse, a horse worth almost $1 million, to the daughter of Ms. Choi and millions of others dollars in horse riding lessons. And as prosecutors have focused in on this, it's become more serious, and now they've called in J.Y. Lee. The surprise was that he was called in not just as a witness, but also as a suspect in this bribery investigation.
Yeah, that really seemed to be coming as the surprise out of today. What does it actually mean for the leadership of Samsung if the de facto leader is embroiled in this?
Well, it calls into question whether Samsung is going to be able to proceed with the succession that they've been planning for a long time. At this point, of course, prosecutors have not filed any charges. They're still investigating. They're going to talk with Mr. Lee today and get some answers to his questions. But what they're going to focus in on is a merger that has allowed him to gain more control over the conglomerate. In 2015, Samsung proposed merging a couple of their affiliated companies. It was a deal that was opposed by activist shareholders, including Paul Elliott Singer from the U.S. They said that the price being paid was too low and that this was going to give the family more control over the conglomerate. At that time, Korea's National Pension Service played a key role by voting in favor of the merger and helping it gain approval. So they're focused in on that and whether there was influence exerted on the pension service in that deal.
And you mentioned, of course, Mr. Lee caught up in all of this regarding horses and horse riding lessons, but what about other executives? He's not the only man being investigated.
He's not. When lawmakers were asking questions about this, there were the heads of 9 different conglomerates that were called in. They were asked questions about a number of different things. Those include the heads of Hyundai and Lotte and some other places. But now it looks like the focus is narrowed on Samsung. As the special prosecutors proceed here, they're going to move on to other companies. They're trying to dig out more details. But the fact that they're starting with Samsung puts them under the spotlight at this point.
And what do we expect to hear today? And indeed, can you just illuminate a little bit on the timeline of things, whether and how much is given out to the press of what will be said today?
Sure, yeah, it's a complicated process. The hearings today the questioning today will not be open to the public. Special prosecutors will question Mr. Lee behind closed doors. Typically, the special prosecutors have been coming out. They've been giving press conferences afterwards, talking a little bit about what's going on. It's not clear what kind of details they're going to give out at this point, what they're going to disclose about what Mr. Lee said. But we should hear something later on today about what happened in the hearing.
Hello, before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Stanley Lin, and my TP numbers is 073945. Today I want to address the parole release of Lee Jae-young and his broader governance in South Korea. Lee's return as the main figure at Samsung marks a critical juncture in an ongoing struggle between corporates, power, and legal accountability in the country. The case of Lee Jae-young stands out as a notable example of political influence within South Korea conglomerate scene. It highlights the intricate relations between business interest and political influence and legal responsibility. Now, Lee's parole has prompted significant debate about the effectiveness of the judiciary in holding high-profile individuals accountable for their actions. His return to power at Samsung might bolster the conglomerate's stability, but it also emphasizes the substantial role that conglomerates continue to play in guiding the South Korean economy and shaping social life. The implications of Samsung case extend far beyond boardroom discussions. It serves as a serious warning to higher authorities about the importance of corporate governance and ethical regulations in the corporate world. Now, the controversy surrounding Lee Jae-young has fueled public demand for greater accountability. virtue and honesty not from only Samsung but throughout the entire South Korean business sphere. The situation has not impacted the broader Korean economy, raising questions about the stability of the business environment both domestically and internationally. It has potentially eroded the confidence of foreign investors in South Korean companies. Looking ahead, there is an argument need for significant reforms aimed at addressing both the causes and the symptoms of corporate misconduct. These reforms should focus on establishing a robust regulatory environment, increasing corporate responsibility, and fostering culture and integrity in business practices. However, South Korea will not be able to achieve these goals unless it takes decisive action to address these challenges and restore trust in state institutions. Now, to summarize the parole release of Lee Jae-young, his return to Samsung underscored the complex and often problematic relationship between the business and politics in South Korea. It highlights the pressing need for reforms to ensure that corporate governance and ethical standards are upheld, fostering a business environment that is transparent, accountable, and trustworthy. Only through such measures can South Korea build a more stable and prosperous economic future. That's me, Stanley Lin, TP number 073945. Thank you.